Okay. So to pick back up, we were talking about Crosspoint. Um, I left that night and went home, called mom and dad, told them about the video and kind of what had been happening and everything. And mom's like, I've been trying to get you to read that his book for a while, and it was Crazy Love. And so dad sends me Crazy Love and Forgotten God, and I start reading them both. At the end of Crazy Love, I'm sitting alone in my grandmother's house. I was house sitting that weekend, and mid-paragraph, out of nowhere, I have this thought, and I think it's so loud that I say it, and it's, I need to go to Honduras. And as soon as I did that, of course, my brain starts going, but you've got this, and you've got that, and you're just getting on your feet, and da 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 da. And as soon as each of these things comes up, there's a surface-to-air missile that just knocks them out of the sky. I was like, no, but you can let go of that, and no, you just started here. It's okay. You can let go of this and that, and look where you are. You are ready for this. And I'm like, fine, I'll go. And the reason why it was such a thing is that I knew when I said it that it wasn't for like a week-long trip like I had been at Martin. I had gone on 2 week-long mission trips when I was a sophomore and a junior to Costa Rica, and we basically put on skits for Jesus, and a couple of our older guys would, older men would preach and have it translated for gospel meetings that night. But that was it. We didn't, it was telling people about Jesus and doing this stuff, and it was basically a vacation. We would go to see the rainforest or go to the mall, and we didn't really do any work. And I knew from what Christina told me about Honduras that it was a very different experience there. It was like, yeah, we're not just telling people about Jesus, we're showing them Jesus. We're being Jesus to these people, and we're also seeing Jesus in these people that we are helping. And so it was a lot more active. It was faith in action, not just, skits for Jesus. So I knew that it was not going to be a week-long trip like that. If I went, I knew it was going to be 4 to 6 weeks, possibly longer. I remember telling people, I was like, I don't know, I may go, and I may love it so much because I'm completely detached here at this point, and I may stay. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen to me when I go here. And so I just start kind of putting that in motion. I message Christina, or I talk to Christina on Skype. She starts talking to the head of the children's home there who coordinates the groups. And I message him, and he messages me back, and he's like, okay, I'll let you know when a good time would be and kind of what the prices are. And, time goes by, and that doesn't happen. But, while this happens, Christina passes on one of the books that she's been reading called Jesus for President by Shane Claiborne and Chris Hall, which is an amazing, just the things it talks about, Christians, Christian nonviolence, Christians in the military, our role in government, just a mass of things like that. Like basically a handbook for Christian politics, but not like you would expect. Not like you would expect. Please look up Shane Claiborne and some of his works because they have been highly influential on my life and why I live the way I do. The other thing is I went to a coat drive at Crosspoint where they tell these people not to line up until the morning. Well, of course, people still line up at night, and it's freezing cold because it's in the middle of December. And this church, instead of just letting these people be out in the cold, even though they told them not to be there, they, line their walkways with plastic wrap, and they put these like little jet like heaters at the end to make sure it's nice and warm and toasty in on these hallways. They serve them food. People just bring food throughout the night, soups, sandwiches, whatever. They give them coffee and hot chocolate. They just sit and talk with them. It was a really beautiful volunteer experience. And so we go and we're doing that, and Brett, one of the guys I met at Crosspoint, who had also just kind of started on his little spiritual reawakening thing. He had never really, he has his own story. So but we're talking with this lady, and she's like, oh, you've got some insight on these things and some of these things. So she intentionally gets me preaching, and so it continues on, and I'm talking like this goes on for an hour or more, and eventually it's me sitting around, and there's like, a group of people kind of scattered around, and all of them are paying attention. Even some of them that are just kind of like trying not to, but they're, I notice they are. And I'm talking about things about like what I'm reading in the book, Christian nonviolence, loving your enemies, praying for those who curse you, not returning evil for evil, things like this. And I start expressing like the, Christian non-involvement in the military, the non-involvement, or where their involvement in the government is supposed to be. And this one lady at first starts off with just like, oh, I can't do that, man. Somebody hits me, it's on, and I'm just like, oh, yeah, but if you're wanting to be a Christian, you really need to be striving for this rather than just accepting that you're going to hit someone when they hit you. You really need to start kind of thinking about how Christ's message would influence you to change that part of your life that you admit. To when I finally started getting onto some of those things and kind of tying them back in with what Jesus actually said, one guy's like, are you saying that we're supposed to let them Muslims come over here and kill us? And I said, well, the first church endured lots of persecution, and this is the things that led, these are their actions. They stood up to people, but they didn't do it violently, and so, maybe yes. And with that, people started standing up, saying things like, my cousin's over there fighting for your right to say that, and all of the things that come along with that. And I realized real quick, that I was about to get my butt handed to me. And so I stood up and I said, look, I stand by what I say, but I am going to take my message and I'm going to leave. And so I got up and I walked away. As I'm walking away outside, I just start praying, and I'm like, God, if this really is what you want me to say, then you got to help me out. I need to know that this is what you want me to say, and I also need to know one of two things. Is this one of those times when y'all preach the gospel and then you get the crap beat out of you for the gospel? Or is this one of those moments when you felt it was more prudent to duck into the crowd, to leave, to remove yourself from that situation, to allow it to cool down? Which is this? And I get back to my car and I'm continuing to pray. I make a small post like, hey, I just was literally reading Christ's words from the Bible, and I had people threatening me. And I'm sitting there just like, I don't know what I'm going to do. And finally I had this realization. I'm like, why am I here? Why am I here tonight? I'm here to serve these people who are in need of clothing and toys for their kids, for Christmas. And I'm here to serve them and make their stay comfortable. And also, there are signs posted all over that if anyone is in a fight, anyone involved will be refused clothing and toys and will be evacuated from the premises. And so I was like, well, if I were to go back and stand there and let these people beat the crap out of me, because I would, every single person who threw a punch or spit on me or kicked me or whatever would have to go home without the clothing that they needed and without the toys for their kids. Completely counterproductive for the original reason I was there. So I was like, okay, I'm going to stay. I'm going to just go around. I'm going to serve these people, but I'm not going to put myself in that situation again while I'm here. I'm going to do what I originally came here to do. I look on my Facebook, and I've had nothing on the on the stats I posted, but I had a random wall post, and it was from the leader of CASA at the time, and he said, and mind you, I've been waiting for months just to hear back, for like 2 months to hear back from him on this, and randomly out of the blue, he's like, hey, I think March would be a great time. That's all he said. But that was all the confirmation I needed that, okay, apparently I'm on the right track, because now you actually want me to go, and you've given me a time frame. God, not the leader. And so I went back, and I served him, and I had completely renewed experience. I'm going to stop there again, so we don't get too long. Pick back up in a moment.